Have you ever imagined that a stroke could happen without you even knowing it? No pain, no collapsing, nothing dramatic like you always see on television. Just waking up one morning feeling a bit unsteady, forgetting what you were about to do, or seeing things go slightly blurry. Then you tell yourself it must just be old age. But that very possibly is the sign of something much more dangerous, a silent stroke. A study in the United States shows that 1 in 4 people aged 60 and over has experienced a silent stroke without any awareness. Worse, these types of strokes quietly destroy the brain, little by little, until one day you suddenly face memory loss, paralysis on one side, or even worse, no more chances to turn things around. The most worrying part is the warning signs are incredibly subtle. Many people ignore them, thinking they are just a normal part of getting older. A little dizziness, a slight stumble, or a moment of forgetting the name of the person in front of you, all could be an early reminder your brain is whispering to you. I know, these things can sound frightening, but you are not alone. In today's video, I will walk you through 5 silent signs of a stroke that older adults should absolutely never ignore. These are small, seemingly harmless signs, but if you recognize them early, you can completely reverse the risk. You will learn how to identify very slight changes in your balance, memory, vision, the sensation on one side of your body, or the way you pronounce words. And more importantly, you will know what to do if you see these signs in yourself or a loved one. Do not wait until it is too late. Your proactivity and knowledge today could be the very reason you live many more healthy and sharp years with your family. If you are watching this video, please stick with me until the end. I promise the last point is one that most older adults overlook, and missing it even once could make the situation worsen quickly. Now let us begin. Sign 1, loss of balance or slight dizziness. Have you ever stood up from a chair and suddenly felt lightheaded for a second before you could walk? Or while walking, you feel as if the floor is slightly tilted, even though you did not trip? Many people would think, I probably did not eat enough, or I just stood up too fast. But for older adults, especially after age 65, these moments of slight imbalance are not simple. They could be an early alarm bell for a silent stroke that is quietly happening inside the brain. When you have a stroke, even a mild one, blood flow to the brain can be blocked in the areas that control your balance and coordination. This makes you suddenly feel your steps are less steady, your head is spinning slightly, or as if you have motion sickness while sitting still. The problem is these fleeting dizzy spells are usually not painful, do not last long, and are very easy to ignore. But each time it happens, your brain may have suffered minor damage, and that damage accumulates over time. I once spoke with Linda, 72 years old, from Ohio. She shared that every morning when she got out of bed, she would lose her balance for the first few seconds. At first, she blamed it on her age, but then one time, while cooking in her kitchen, she suddenly felt everything start spinning. Fortunately, her daughter was nearby and took her for a checkup immediately. The MRI results showed she had already experienced at least one silent stroke, and without prompt treatment, a major stroke was only a matter of time. So what can you do? First, do not dismiss any feeling of imbalance, even if it only lasts for a few seconds. If this happens more than once over a few weeks, be proactive and get checked. Pay attention when you get out of bed, stand up from the sofa, enter the bathroom, or go up the stairs. That feeling of unsteadiness is your body's way of telling you something is happening inside, and you deserve to know exactly what. The good news is, with a gentle exercise routine, enough sleep, and regular blood pressure checks, you can significantly reduce your risk of a silent stroke. Do not wait until you collapse to think about protecting your brain. A shaky step today could be your chance to prevent something worse tomorrow. And if you are wondering, could I have had one and not known? The first thing to do is to pause, listen to your body, and schedule a doctor's appointment this week. Because sometimes what saves your life is not medicine, but timely attention. Sign 2. Memory problems or confusion. Do you ever walk into a room to do something, then forget what you came in for? Or you are in the middle of a story and suddenly forget a very common word, making you pause mid-sentence. If this only happens occasionally, you might dismiss it as a normal part of aging. But if you find yourself repeating things you just said, or taking longer to recall the name of a close relative. That could be the first sign a silent stroke has left a scar on the part of your brain that controls memory. One of the areas most vulnerable to a mild stroke is the hippocampus, where short-term memories are stored and information is processed. When this area is deprived of sufficient blood, even for just a few minutes, nerve cells die without you ever knowing. As a result, seemingly simple information, like what you just ate, who just called, or tomorrow's appointment, suddenly becomes fuzzy and hard to retain. That is no longer just forgetting because of old age, but a sign your nervous system has started to suffer damage. I remember one time David, a 68-year-old retired teacher from San Diego, went to his doctor because he was frequently forgetting words during conversations. Once, he was telling a war story but could not remember the word radio, something he used to use daily. His family thought it was just old age until he took a wrong turn while driving to the market. Not because he was tired, but because he was confused by a familiar road, as if he had never been there before. After a brain scan, his doctor said he had suffered 2 mild strokes in the past 3 years without knowing. If you find yourself often confusing appointments, repeating the same story many times, or needing more time to express your thoughts, please take it as a sign that needs serious attention. A brain check with an MRI or CT scan not only helps detect damage early, but also prevents memory loss from becoming permanent if left for too long. The solution here is not in brain supplements or expensive functional foods. It lies in paying attention to yourself, keeping your blood pressure stable, maintaining deep sleep, and spending time each day on light exercise, reading, playing chess, or even just talking with friends. These seemingly small activities are the best ways to protect the memory-related regions of your brain, keeping your mind alert and sharp. Do not wait until you call your grandchild by the wrong name or forget the way home to become worried. Every time your memory slips a little, it could be your brain crying out for help in silence, and you, the person listening to this, can absolutely take action starting today to keep yourself clear-minded and fully connected with the people you love. Sign 3, sudden changes in vision. One morning you wake up, blink a few times, and feel like a hazy fog is covering everything in front of you. You think, I probably just need to wash my face, or maybe my glasses are dirty. But if the image is still blurry after a few minutes, or you suddenly find it hard to distinguish colors, lose vision in one eye, or light becomes unusually glaring, do not just brush it off. Sudden vision changes, even for just a few minutes, can be a sign of a silent stroke quietly occurring in the brain region that controls your sight. Not everyone knows that the retina, which receives light and sends signals to the brain, has a network of tiny, vulnerable blood vessels. When a blood clot or vessel blockage occurs in this area, visual information gets interrupted. A mild stroke might make you see straight lines as wavy, the face of the person opposite you as distorted, or simply make you feel, my left eye is a bit darker than usual. Those tiny signals, if ignored, can lead to very serious consequences later. Elaine, 70 years old in Seattle, once shared that while she was reading a book, a line of text suddenly blurred in the middle of the page, as if someone had used an eraser on the center of the paper. She blinked a few times, the words reappeared, so she ignored it. But a few weeks later, while walking in a park, she tripped over a low curb she did not see at all and needed 5 stitches on her knee. That time, her eye doctor discovered she had retinal damage related to a small stroke and warned that without a comprehensive neurological exam, the risk of a major stroke could come within the next year. Therefore, if you suddenly cannot see clearly, experience blurry vision in one part of your visual field, see flashes of light, or feel one eye is heavier, do not treat it as normal fatigue. Make an appointment with an ophthalmologist or neurologist right away, even if your vision has returned to normal. Because the brain, when temporarily damaged by a lack of blood, often has a short-term recovery ability. But the damage is still there and will continue to accumulate over time if not addressed early. To protect your eyes and visual cortex, you can start with very simple things. Get regular eye exams every 6 months, control your blood sugar if you have a history of diabetes, and observe any changes when you read, watch television, or drive. The eyes are the windows to the soul, but they are also the windows through which you can detect the earliest abnormalities in your brain. If you have been feeling lately that there is something not quite right with your vision, do not hesitate. You deserve to see this world clearly for many more years with healthy eyes and a lucid mind. And sometimes just one eye exam could be the reason you avoid something no one ever wants. Sign 4. Weakness or numbness on one side of the body. Have you ever felt that one of your arms is weaker than the other? Or while brushing your teeth, you suddenly notice your right hand cannot hold the toothbrush as steadily as usual. At times like these, you might think it is from sleeping in an odd position, a pinched nerve, or not being fully awake yet. But if that feeling repeats itself, especially on the same side of the body, either the right or the left, then it is not a small matter. It could very well be the sign of a silent stroke that is quietly eating away at your motor nervous system. Our brain is divided into two hemispheres, each controlling the movement and sensation of the opposite side of the body. When one side of the brain is damaged, even a very small area, the arm and leg on the opposite side will react first. Weakness or a slight numb feeling, like pins and needles, tingling, or a loss of sensation in one arm or leg, is not a normal part of getting old. It is a signal that the motor control center in your brain may have been deprived of blood, and nerve cells are gradually losing their ability to transmit signals. Thomas, 75 years old, once thought his right hand was getting weaker due to not exercising regularly. One time, while holding a glass of water, his hand trembled slightly and the glass fell to the floor. A few days later, he noticed his right leg was also sometimes slow, forcing him to pause to regain balance. Luckily, his grandson, a medical student, advised him to get checked. A brain scan revealed he had just suffered a small stroke, and the damage had been left on his motor cortex. Without timely detection, the next stroke could have cost him his ability to walk completely. You can do a self-check at home. Try raising both arms high at the same time and hold them for 10 seconds. If one arm tends to drift down sooner or you cannot raise them equally, that is a sign you need an immediate neurological evaluation. Also, pay attention when you put on a shirt, button buttons, hold objects, or climb stairs. If one side of your body is always slower, weaker, or feels like a sandbag is tied to it, that is not a coincidence. For older adults, keeping the brain's blood vessels flowing is a top priority. This can start with controlling blood pressure, eating a balanced diet, avoiding dehydration, and especially never taking any feeling of weakness or numbness lightly, no matter how fleeting. Because a weak hand today could be the final warning before you can no longer move it at all. But if you pay attention, listen to your body, and act early, then every step, every handshake can remain whole and complete for the rest of your years. And that is something you and all of your loved ones truly deserve to have. Sign 5, difficulty speaking or slurred speech. Have you ever tried to say a simple sentence, but when it came out, the words did not follow your intention? Or you are telling a story and suddenly feel your tongue trip over your own words. Sometimes you feel your mouth move slower than your mind. You cannot speak clearly, or you mix up familiar words. If this happens once and then disappears, you might blame it on fatigue, a dry mouth, or not enough sleep. But if it happens repeatedly, especially when you are fully awake, it could be a sign your brain just experienced a silent stroke. The speech control centers of the brain, known as Broca's and Wernicke's areas, are located in the left hemisphere. When blood flow to the brain is interrupted, even for a few minutes, these areas can temporarily lose connection, making the formation and pronunciation of language difficult. Sometimes a silent stroke does not cause you to lose consciousness or memory. It just makes you speak offbeat. Your tongue feels stiffer, or use the wrong word even though you can still hear, still understand, and are completely aware. Maria, 69 years old in Arizona, recalled that during a phone call with her sister, she meant to say, "Have you eaten breakfast yet?" But what came out was, "You, breakfast, eaten, yet you." Her sister thought she was joking, but her voice was shaky. She hesitated, and then she could not remember the word bread. A day later at her checkup, the doctor diagnosed her with a mild stroke that had affected her language center. And fortunately, After 10 days of early recovery, she regained her fluent speech. Otherwise, the outcome could have been different. Pay attention if you start repeating words, slurring your speech unusually, cannot remember the exact word you want to use, or find it difficult to say multi-syllable words. That is not stuttering because of old age. It is a warning message from the brain area you use every day to communicate, to connect, to maintain your lively presence in your family and community. The first solution is do not ignore it. If you or a loved one suddenly has trouble speaking, treat it as an emergency situation. Getting a neurological exam, an MRI, or a language assessment is not being overly cautious. It is how you show respect for your own body and preserve your right to talk, to share, to laugh, and to connect. Perhaps you were always someone who spoke clearly and articulately, the center of every gathering. And you can continue to be, but that only happens if you act soon enough, because one slurred sentence today could be the sign that helps you save an entire world of language for tomorrow. And that world, with its laughter, advice, and everyday stories, is something no one wants to lose, especially not you. We have just gone through 5 seemingly minor signs: slight imbalance, fleeting memory loss, sudden blurred vision, one-sided weakness, and unclear speech. But you see, none of those signs are truly minor, because every single one of those quiet changes could be part of a much bigger picture, a silent stroke that is stealthily causing damage in your brain without you even knowing. The most dangerous thing is not the stroke itself, but complacency. So many older adults ignore these initial symptoms just because it feels familiar or they think I am still normal. But it is precisely because they are familiar, because they repeat, that we must listen and act. I want you to take a moment right now to ask yourself, have you recently felt off balance? Has your memory slipped for no reason? Or has anyone ever told you your voice sounds different today? These small details, if given proper attention, could become the reason you avoid a major event. And here is what I want you to remember. It is never too late to start paying attention to your body. Whether you are 65, 75, or 85 years old, recovery is still possible if you are proactive. Linda, David, Maria, the people who once thought it is just old age, are all now living healthy, sharp, and inspiring lives simply because they listened in time. You do not have to change the whole world. Just start with an appointment with your doctor, a sincere conversation with a loved one, or simply writing down the small signs you have experienced. That small act today could be the reason you are still talking, laughing, walking steadily, and living fully tomorrow. If you found this video helpful, please share it with your family and friends, because sometimes you could be the very reason someone recognizes something important they were about to miss. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Take care of yourself the way you have always quietly taken care of everyone else. And I hope to see you again in the next video when you are still healthy, sharp, and full of strength.